Hi, and welcome back to Section 1.1, Introduction to Algebra. In the previous sections, we covered examples for add, subtract, multiply, and divide. Now, in this section, we're going to cover where we have phrases that has the word number in it. So, when you see the word a number, that means that it's going to represent a unknown variable. So we're still going to follow the same process for translating phrases into algebraic expression, just like in the example for add, subtract, multiply, and divide. But now we have to take into account that if it has the part of the phrase number or a number, it means it will be an unknown variable. So let's take a look at the first example. It says a number increased by 8. So just like in the addition example, when it says increase by, so whatever that's in the front, in this case a number, that will be our unknown variable. And then what's going to be at the end, in this case the 8, that's going to be second. So when it comes to translating, there are no specific order, a specific way on using a variable for a number. So for this video's sake, we're going to use x as our variable. However, you are free to use whichever letter you would like to use when you're translating phrases into algebraic expressions. So a number is first, it's in front of increased by, so we're going to use x. And then for 8, we're going to put that second. So when we write our final answer, we're going to have it as x plus 8. Now, moving on to the next example, it says 14 divided by a number. So we have divided by. So since 14 is in the front, we're going to put that first. And then at the end, it says a number. So that's going to be our x variable. We're going to put that second. So when you rewrite our final answer, it's going to be 14 over x, or if you want to write it horizontally, 14 divided by x. As I mentioned before, when it comes to division, you can write it whichever you like. You can write it vertically like a fraction, 14 over x, or you can write it horizontally, 14 divided by x. Just make sure that you follow the order correctly. Now, moving on to the next example, it says 9 more than a number. So, still doing translating phrases. When it says more than, that means plus. Not the inequality sign, but plus. So it says 9 more than a number. So in this example, what's in front of the more than, that's going to be our second part. And then what's going to be after the more than, that's going to be the first part. So let's label our 9 and a number. So a number will be first, and then 9 will be second. And as I stated before, more than means plus. So we're going to have x plus 9. Now, let's take a look at the next example. It says a number less than 5. So, less than 5, we're going to follow the same order as the previous example where it says more than. So, we're going to label what's in the front. So in this case, it says a number. Since that's in the front, that's going to be our second part. And the 5, since it's after less than, that's going to be the first part. So let's label that. So a number will be second and 5 will be first. So when we write out the answer, it's going to be 5 minus x. So as I stated before, make sure you pay very, very close attention to the order. So let's look at the next example. Now here, it says a number cube. So when it says a number cube, you could also say it as the cube of a number. So when it says cube or cube, that refers to the exponent. In this case, it's to the power of 3. So as I stated before in the previous example, whenever it says a number, we're going to use the variable x. So when it says a number cube or the cube of a number, it means that it is x to the third power. In the next example, it says the square of a number. When it says the square of a number, it can also mean a number squared. So it's similar to the format of the previous example. So when it says the square of a number or a number squared, it's referring to being raised to the second power. So for this example, when we have a number, we're going to use the variable x. So when it's being squared, we're going to have it written as x squared. All right. So once we have identified and know how to work out when it comes to exponents, cube is for 3, squared is for 2. Let's take a look at the next example. This one says 3 times a number plus 7. All right, we have two operations, times and plus. So we need to identify which goes with which. So here it says 3 times a number plus 7. So let's take a look at times because that's the first operation. It says 3 times a number. So that means that the 3 and a number goes together. So let's identify that it's one thing, the 3 and the number being multiplied to each other. They go together. So when it says 3 times a number, that means it's going to be, in this case, 3 times x, or 3x. And what comes after is a plus 7. So that means we're going to write plus 7. So our answer will be 3x plus 7. All right, let's take a look at the next example. It says 12 decreased by 5 times the number. So we have two operations, decrease and 5 times the number. So here we want to pay very, very close attention. Now, the first operation says decrease by. So the first part, let me rephrase that. What came in the front of decrease by is the 12. And what comes after is 5 times the number. So the 12, since it's in front of decrease by, that's going to be the first part. Whatever that came after decrease by, that's going to be the second part. So notice in the second part it says 5 times the number. So that means that the 5 and the number will go together. So let's label that. So 5 times the number, there are one thing. So just like in the previous example where it says 3 times the number, we wrote it as 3x. So when it says 5 times the number, then we're mostly going to have 5x. So when it says 12 decreased by 5 times the number, we're going to write it as 12 minus 5x. And again, you want to make sure you write it in the right order, okay? So pay very close attention to the phrases. Make sure you break it down, set it up, which goes with which, and then put it in the right order.